In today's tale from the shadows, we learn that everything that crawls is not what it seems. So don't get too stuck in the web of this sticky tale. The quaint village of Norfolk, nestled against the vast Broads, held a secret that lingered like a ghostly whisper on the wind. On the outskirts, obscured by the dense foliage, stood an ancient farmhouse, dating back to the 1500s. This relic of the past, weathered by time, told stories of a lineage that refused to relinquish its grasp on the ancestral home. Generations of the same family had dwelled within the hallowed halls, veiled by the isolation and seclusion that location provided. The entrance to the farmhouse was guarded by an imposing gate, keeping curious onlookers at bay. The villagers spoke in hushed tones about the mysterious occupants, but their knowledge barely scratched the surface of the farmhouse's enigmatic history. Recently, a new family, seeking solace from the city's chaos, purchased the property adjacent to the ancient dwelling. From the top-floor window of the modern home, they glimpsed the silhouette of the aged farmhouse and the looming barn nearby. Intrigued, they inquired with the locals about the inhabitants of the historic estate, only to be met with blank stares and uneasy silence. As the new family settled into their home, the allure of the enigmatic farmhouse became an obsession. Unbeknownst to them, the whispers of the past stirred in the wind, hinting at a legacy that had been carefully concealed for centuries. As the days passed, in the newfound tranquility of their rural abode, the new family began to uncover the peculiarities that clung to the Norfolk village like a lingering mist. It was during a visit to the local town that they stumbled upon the first unsettling piece of the puzzle. Whilst pursuing the quaint market stalls, the family overheard snippets of conversations among the locals. Concerns about missing livestock echoed through the crowd. Cattle and sheep, vital to the villagers' livelihoods, were vanishing without a trace. The town murmured with speculation and bewilderment. How could such valuable assets simply wander off? Intrigued, now attuned to the strange undercurrents of the village, the new family engaged with the locals, learning that this inexplicable phenomenon had persisted for many months. Every few weeks, a sheep or a cow would disappear without a trace, leaving the farmers puzzled and frustrated. Some spoke of eerie noises in the night, of shadows that moved unnaturally in the moonlight, but none dared to venture beyond the vague insinuations. The son of the new family, Anthony, overhearing the local tales, remarked, "Good thing we've got Max tagged with the GPS," referring to their loyal dog. The comment was met with nods of agreement from the locals, who contemplated the idea of tagging their own livestock in a desperate attempt to solve the mystery that haunted their once peaceful village. The Norfolk landscape unfolded in all its rustic charm as Anthony and Max embarked on a leisurely walk. The bond between man and dog deepened as they played in the open fields, the sun casting long shadows in the late afternoon. Their carefree exploration led them closer to the old farmhouse, a looming figure on the horizon. Suddenly, Max's playful demeanor shifted. His eyes perked up, and his gaze fixed on a point in the distance, a place unseen by Anthony. Max, sensing something the human senses could not detect, bolted in the direction of the ancient barn, disappearing through a gap in the hedge. Anthony, concerned, hurried after his furry companion. In the quietude of the open field, Max sat outside the barn, a vigilant guardian with his eyes locked on the weathered doors. Confused, Anthony approached, whispering, "What is it, boy?" Just as he prepared to enter the barn, a voice cut through the stillness. "Don't go in there." Startled, Anthony turned to see a young girl. Her presence a sudden apparition. "Oh, hello. My dog got loose and ran over here. I'll get him back," Anthony explained, feeling a strange tension in the air. "That's okay. Come back sometime, won't you?" the girl said cryptically, her eyes holding a secret Anthony couldn't grasp. As he was about to respond, he noticed a spider crawling on her shoulder. "You have a spider on your shoulder?" he pointed out. "Of course," she replied casually, heading back towards the farmhouse without a hint of concern. Anthony, perplexed and unnerved, decided it was time to leave. "Don't ever go there again, Max. Something feels funny," he whispered to his loyal companion as they retraced their steps, leaving behind the enigmatic girl and the ancient barn with its secrets sealed behind creaking doors. Little did Anthony know this encounter would be a prelude to a journey into depths of a legacy buried in time. The night unfolded with an unsettling calmness as Anthony found himself unable to shake the mysterious encounter with the girl and the barn. Unable to resist, he glanced out of his window on the top floor, eyes drawn towards the distant silhouette of the old barn on the gated farm estate. There, a faint light flickered, casting eerie shadows. Determined to decipher the source, Anthony reached for his phone and activated the zoom function. As the image became clearer, a chill ran down his spine. It appeared to be a colossal spider, or at least that's what he thought he saw. Rationalizing, he dismissed it as shadows playing tricks on the camera. Intrigued and somewhat disturbed, Anthony recorded a video through the zoom lens and transferred it to his PC. When he played it back, the image sent shivers down his spine. A monstrous, spider-like figure seemed to crawl into the barn, accompanied by two human forms. "It can't be," he muttered to himself, questioning the authenticity of the footage. As morning light bathed the landscape, Anthony's sense of unease grew. The realization struck him like a cold wind. He couldn't find Max. Panic set in, and he frantically questioned his family about the dog's whereabouts. "Dad, have you seen Max?" he asked urgently. "No. Did he go out?" his father replied, concern creasing his brow. Turning to his sister Rachel, Anthony repeated the question. "Rachel, have you seen Max?" "No," came the simple reply. A knot tightened in Anthony's stomach as a horrible realization took hold. The barn, the mysterious girl, and the inexplicable occurrences seemed to converge, creating a web of intrigue that ensnared not only his curiosity, but now his beloved companion. Determined and fearing the worst, Anthony steeled himself for the journey ahead, where the secrets of the old farmhouse would unveil themselves, and the fate of Max would become entangled in the enigma that lurked within. Dread settled over Anthony as he set out to find Max, the fresh paw marks leading him towards the old farmhouse as he approached the barn. The slightly ajar door hinted at the possibility of answers. Stepping inside, he found nothing but a seamlessly abandoned, dirty structure. However, his eyes caught sight of peculiar marks that abruptly ceased at the center of the barn. Investigating further, Anthony uncovered an old hatchway. Pushing it open, he revealed a set of stairs leading down into the darkness. A whimper echoed through the hidden chamber. A hope surged within him. It was Max. Racing down the stairs, Anthony discovered his loyal companion ensnared in a massive spiderweb. Animal bones littered the macabre space, sending shivers down his spine as he worked to free Max. Once successful, they hastily ascended the stairs, but their escape was met by the mysterious girl from the day before. "Hello again. I'm glad you came back," she greeted with an unsettling smile. "Won't you stay for lunch?" Anthony, incredulous, retorted, "What? My dog was trapped here and you want me to stay?" The girl's response was chillingly nonchalant. "Yes, but now you've freed him, who will we have for lunch?" As Anthony processed her words, a disconcerting sound emerged from the depths of the chamber behind him. He turned to witness a monstrous sight. A spider, as tall as a man, with black hair on its legs and menacing fangs. The creature shuffled forward with an alarming speed, prompting Anthony and Max to sprint up the stairs. Their escape was punctured by the girl's eerie invitation. "Do come back any time. We'd love to have you for lunch." The echoes of the encounter lingered in Anthony's mind as he fled the nightmarish scene, leaving behind the old barn and its dark secrets. The inexplicable events had unraveled, revealing a horror that transcended the boundaries of imagination, a web of terror woven by an ancient legacy that demanded more than mere curiosity from those who dared to approach. "Dad, there's a huge spider in that old barn," Anthony exclaimed. His father chuckled, dismissing the claim as an overactive imagination. "You and your imagination, son. You should be a writer one day," he teased. Undeterred, Anthony sought solace in his sister Rachel, hoping she might take him seriously. Approaching her with urgency, Anthony explained, "Rachel, there's something evil in that place, a weird-looking girl and a spider bigger than Dad." Rachel, absorbed in her phone, glanced at Anthony with mild annoyance, but didn't acknowledge his concerns. Frustrated by the lack of support, Anthony resolved to fortify their property, sealing any holes in the fence to prevent Max from wandering near the old barn. His father praised his efforts, but Anthony swore off ever going near the ominous place again. Days passed, and a false sense of security settled in. Playing with Max on their property, Anthony spotted the girl at the edge of a farmhouse. Suspicious, he confronted her, demanding, "What do you want?" "Oh, nothing. Just looking," she replied casually, offering him a treat from her bag. "Would you like some?" Anthony hesitated, eyeing the bag. To his horror, what appeared to be raisins were revealed as flies. Recoiling, he ran towards his home. As he arrived, an unsettling sight awaited him. His family was gone. Panic set in, and Anthony frantically searched, only to find thick cobwebs covering the floor. The eerie realization dawned on him. His warnings had not been in vain. The inexplicable events had spiraled into a web of malevolence that now ensnared not only his dog, but his family as well. The old farmhouse, with secrets concealed within, loomed as the epicenter of a horror that transcended the boundaries of the imagination. "I've got to save them," Anthony declared, determination burning in his eyes. Max, sensing his master's urgency, watched him with a mix of concern and loyalty as Anthony headed towards the ominous barn. Climbing through the hedge, he found the girl waiting for him. "I've been waiting for you, Anthony," she said with an unsettling calm. Anthony, fueled by a mix of fear and desperation, demanded, "Where are my parents? What have you done with them?" "Oh, I don't know. Maybe they're in the barn." She laughed, her voice echoing through the desolate surroundings. Ignoring her, Anthony rushed towards the barn. The doors wide open. Inside stood 3 figures. 2 men and a woman, each with thick black hair covering their faces and hands. "Welcome, Anthony." They greeted her in unison, sending shivers down his spine. Fear etched on his face. Anthony demanded to know the whereabouts of his family. Ignoring their responses, he descended into the hidden chamber, only to find it empty. "Mum, Dad, Sis, are you in here?" he shouted in desperation. Suddenly, a familiar crawling noise reached his ears, the rapid scratching of legs against the floor. The massive spider, now vacant, left Anthony bewildered. As he turned to escape, the horror intensified. A man-sized spider, its face bearing slight human features, emerged. Thick black hair covered its form, and drool dripped from its fangs as it fixated on Anthony. A guttural scream escaped his lips as he raced up the stairs to escape the grotesque creature. At the top of the stairs stood the 3 adults and the girl. One of them spoke, a fine young man, followed by another, perfect for our little Elsie. The woman joined in. Welcome to the family, son. Elsie's just come of age. Their chilling words echoed through the barn, sealing Anthony's fate in the grip of a lineage that thrived on darkness and the insidious embrace of the ancient legacy hidden within the desolate farmhouse. Anthony's parents returned from a visit to town, expecting to find their son. Instead, Max greeted them with a wagging tail, but Anthony was nowhere to be found. His mysterious disappearance sent shockwaves through the local community, leaving a void that could never be filled. Despite desperate searches and investigations, Anthony remained lost, a haunting mystery lingering over the Norfolk village. Months later, Max, who had grown restless, managed to escape the confines of the property and slip through the hole in the farmhouse hedge. Driven by an instinct or a lingering connection, he entered the barn and descended the stairs into the hidden chamber. At the bottom, a voice greeted him. "Hello, boy." It was Elsie. "Have you come to meet my new husband?" A crawling noise followed, and Max beheld a sight that defied reason. A spider, covered in dark hair with a face that seemed to bear a faint resemblance to Anthony. The spider murmured softly, "Oh, Max." The legacy of the ancient farmhouse, entwined with dark secrets and an insidious heritage, unfolded in the depths of the hidden chamber. The legacy claimed not only Anthony, but now reached out to embrace Max, the loyal companion. As a new chapter in the sinister tale began, the barn stood as a silent witness to the mysteries and horrors that lay beneath, concealed from the world by a veil of isolation and the relentless passage of time. The legacy endured, leaving a chilling legacy in its wake, a story etched into the very fabric of the Norfolk landscape, forever bound by the threads of an ancient web that spanned generations. Ah, my dear nocturnal scholars of the macabre, it's time for a quick scare break. As we linger in these shadowy realms, a small favour I dare to ask. If my tales of terror bring you thrills, do not let our journey end here. Hit like, subscribe, and join our dark congregation. Now shall we delve deeper into the abyss. Let's embrace the darkness once more. Let's get back to the shadows. In today's slithery tale, we meet a family in Scotland ready to shed their skin. Do enjoy today's scary tale. In the remote reaches of Scotland, there stood an enigmatic structure known as the Rothwell House. It was a dwelling shrouded in whispers and wariness, owned by the Rothwell family. The lineage had dwindled to a mere few: Dr. Frederick Rothwell, his loyal maid, and his daughter, a figure of mystery and speculation. The daughter, whom nobody in the town had ever glimpsed, was said to suffer from an unusual illness. The ailment was a topic of hushed conversations and wild conjecture among the local villagers. Dr. Rothwell, having spent a significant portion of his life in India, returned with his maid, who also originated from those distant lands. She had accompanied the family back to Scotland, primarily to care for the ailing daughter. Rumours swirled around the nature of the daughter's condition. The most persistent of these whispers suggested that she had been bitten by a rare and poisonous snake while in India. The venom from the serpent was rumoured to have wrought havoc on her visage, deforming her face to an extent that it was beyond recognition. An air of eerie mystery perpetually hung over the Rothwell house, its isolation and the strange tales that surrounded it served to deter visitors. No one dared to cross its threshold, and thus the house stood, a solitary sentinel amidst the wild Scottish landscape, harbouring its secrets and the shadows of the Rothwell family. One cold, wintry evening, with snowflakes swirling in the frigid air, a family was navigating their way through the snowy weather. The roads were treacherous and visibility was low. As they cautiously drove, a sudden figure emerged from the blizzard. A woman ran in front of their car. In a heart-stopping moment, the driver slammed on the brakes, narrowly avoiding a collision. Peering out into the snowy haze, they saw the figure of a woman lying motionless on the road. The woman passenger, with a sense of urgency in her voice, exclaimed, "Quickly, we need to get her to a hospital." Without hesitation, they rushed to assist the stranger, lifting her into their car and heading to the local hospital, which was a mere 20 minutes away. At the hospital, the mysterious woman lay in a bed, surrounded by a team of doctors who examined her with growing curiosity. The first thing they all noticed was her stunning beauty. She seemed to possess a captivating allure, drawing the gaze of everyone in the room. Among them, Dr. Robert Blake felt an overwhelming attraction, something he couldn't quite understand or resist. "I wonder who she is," Dr. Blake murmured to his colleagues, but no one knew. The woman's identity was a complete enigma, as if she had appeared from out of nowhere. Her sudden emergence during a snowstorm and her inexplicable beauty only deepened the mystery that surrounded her. The doctors continued their examination, hoping to unravel the secrets of this enigmatic woman who had so unexpectedly entered their lives. As Dr. Blake turned to leave the hospital room, a faint voice stopped him in his tracks. "Where am I?" the woman inquired, her voice tinged with confusion and vulnerability. Dr. Blake turned back, a reassuring smile on his face. "Oh, hello, I'm Dr. Blake, and you're in the hospital. You've had an accident. There's nothing to worry about," he gently explained. "And who are you?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. The woman paused for a moment before responding. "My name is Amanda Rothwell." Dr. Blake's eyes widened in recognition. "Frederick Rothwell's daughter?" he asked, surprised. "Yes," she replied softly. "I'd better get home quickly. Father will be very worried." "I'll contact your father immediately," Dr. Blake assured her, still processing the unexpected connection to the infamous Rothwell family. Later that day, the hospital was rocked by a grim and shocking discovery. In one of the less frequented corridors, a body was found. The most chilling aspect was the 2 puncture marks on its neck, but even more horrifying was the body's unnatural green hue, indicating the presence of poison. Now we're going to have a short scare break while you ease your nerves. So while you're waiting, don't forget, if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and stab that subscribe button right now. As doing so, you'll really help the professor spread his shadow of evil. Now, let's get back to the story. The macabre discovery sent ripples of fear and confusion throughout the hospital. The circumstances of the death were mysterious, and the presence of poison suggested something sinister. The hospital staff were left to wonder if this was an isolated incident, or if it heralded something far more ominous, especially with the recent arrival of Amanda Rothwell. Dr. Frederick Rothwell stormed into the hospital lobby, his demeanor one of urgency and authority. He approached the front desk, demanding to see his daughter immediately. The receptionist, attempting to maintain protocol, informed him of a short wait, but Dr. Rothwell was having none of it. He erupted into a loud outburst, insisting on immediate access to his daughter. By his side, his maid from India, Sunita, her expression one of quiet concern amidst the chaos. Just then, Dr. Robert Blake entered the reception area, witnessing the commotion. He quickly intervened, assuring Dr. Rothwell that his daughter, Amanda, was receiving the best possible care. "This is inexcusable. I must see my daughter right now," Dr. Rothwell insisted, his voice tinged with a mix of anger and worry. Dr. Blake, seeking to defuse the situation, led Dr. Rothwell and Sunita to Amanda's room. As they entered, Sunita quietly sat down on the floor and began to play a tune on her banjare, a traditional Indian flute. The melody was haunting and seemed to fill the room with a mystical aura. Amanda, upon hearing the music, initially reacted with shock. She reached out for Dr. Blake, her eyes wide with fear. "No, I can't stand this music, make them stop," she pleaded. But as Sunita continued to play, the music reaching a mesmerizing pitch, Amanda's demeanor changed. Her eyes grew heavy, and she gradually fell into a deep sleep, as if the melody had cast a spell over her. Observing this, Dr. Rothwell declared firmly, "Right, we'll now be taking her home." The atmosphere in the room was charged with an unspoken tension, as if the music had not only lured Amanda to sleep, but also unveiled a hidden layer of the mystery surrounding the Rothwell family. As Dr. Frederick Rothwell and his maid Sunita were about to transfer Amanda from a hospital bed, the calm of the hospital room was interrupted by the arrival of the police. They walked with a sense of purpose, their presence immediately altering the dynamics of the situation. "We're just checking up on a few things," one of the officers began. "There's been an incident here in the hospital. Would any of you know anything about this?" The officer's gaze swept the room, subtly assessing everyone present. Dr. Rothwell, seizing the opportunity, responded quickly. "Even more reason to get Amanda home and safe." His voice carried a hint of urgency, masking a deeper concern. "I'm sorry, sir, but we're going to need to take a few details before we can let you go," the officer stated firmly. It was clear that police were not going to allow any hasty departures, especially given the mysterious circumstances. Yes, but please hurry. I really must get Amanda home," Dr. Rothwell replied, his tone a mix of impatience and worry. After a brief but thorough questioning, in which the officers gathered necessary details, Dr. Rothwell, accompanied by Sunita, finally escorted Amanda to the car. They departed for the Rothwell house, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a sense of unease among the hospital staff. Dr. Robert Blake, who had observed the events unfold, expressed his intention to visit the Rothwell house to check on Amanda's well-being. His concern for Amanda was evident, and he seemed determined to ensure her safety, especially given the strange circumstances surrounding her family and the recent unsettling events at the hospital. Back at the Rothwell house, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Dr. Frederick Rothwell, his voice laced with anger and fear, scolded Amanda fiercely. "We can never leave here. You are not like normal people. What the hell were you thinking?" he exclaimed, his frustration evident. In the corner of the room, Sunita sat, playing her banjare, the haunting notes filling the space with a surreal calm. Amanda, however, was defiant. "I'm tired of being a prisoner here," she declared, her voice trembling with emotion. "I hate this house." As Amanda's anger escalated, an eerie transformation began. Her skin started to take on a strange greenish hue, a disturbing sight that seemed to confirm the rumors of her unusual condition. Seeing this, Dr. Rothwell yelled out, "Sunita!" In response, Sunita played her banjare louder, the melody intensifying. Under the influence of the music, Amanda's agitation subdued, and she gradually drifted into a deep sleep. At that moment, the doorbell rang, breaking the tense silence. It was the police, back to inquire further about the strange events at the hospital. Dr. Rothwell, infuriated by this interruption, hastily dismissed the officers sending them away without the answers they sought. Returning to Amanda's room, Dr. Rothwell was met with a startling sight. The room was empty. "No!" he screamed in panic. Rushing to the window, he saw Amanda outside, talking to the two police officers. Frantically, he dashed down the stairs and flung open the front door, only to witness a terrifying scene. The two officers lay on the ground, their faces turned an unnatural shade of green, foam bubbling from their mouths, unmistakably poisoned. The scene was one of utter chaos and terror, and as Dr. Rothwell stood there, the grim reality of his family's secret and its deadly consequences were laid bare before him. In a state of utter panic, Dr. Rothwell raced back into the house, his voice filled with dread. "Sunita, she's changing again!" But as he reached the stairs, a chilling sight met his eyes. Sunita lay motionless, succumbing to the same fate as the officers, her skin green and foaming at the mouth, her banshee shattered beside her. Then, from upstairs, a sound that sent shivers down his spine, the hiss of a large snake. "Father!" A voice called out, a mix of accusation and pain. "You did this to me." "Amanda, my darling, we had to seek a cure for your illness. This was the only way," Dr. Rothwell pleaded, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and regret. As he looked up the stairs, he saw an unbelievable transformation. Amanda's body had morphed into that of a serpentine creature, her human head atop a slithering snake's body. "Then let us embrace, Father. Show me how much you really care about me," Amanda said, her voice cold and menacing. Dr. Rothwell knew in that moment that she intended to kill him. "No, Amanda, we can find a cure, I know it," he implored desperately. "The only cure, Father, is to remove your evilness. How could you turn me into this?" Amanda's voice echoed through the house as she began to descend the stairs, her form a terrifying blend of human and serpent. Outside the house, a scream of terror pierced the night, a sound that resonated with the horror unfolding in the walls of the Rothwell house. The secret of the Rothwell family, long shrouded in mystery and rumor, was now horrifically revealed, and its consequences were unfurling in a nightmarish crescendo. The quiet of the Rothwell house was abruptly shattered as more police arrived at the scene, their sirens piercing the stillness of the night. Inside, they discovered a grim tableau. Dr. Frederick Rothwell, Sunita, and the two officers, all deceased, victims of poisoning. At the foot of the stairway, they found Amanda Rothwell, unconscious, but alive. Without delay, Amanda was rushed back to the hospital, this time under strict supervision. During questioning, she narrated a harrowing tale of abuse at the hands of her father. She claimed that Dr. Rothwell, in his obsession to keep her by his side, was willing to poison anyone who threatened to separate them. She concluded her story by stating that in a final act of desperation, her father had taken his own life, stabbing himself in the neck with poison sourced from India. The alternative explanation for the events, that of Amanda's transformation and the unnatural occurrences, was too inconceivable for the authorities to even consider. Thus, the Rothwell house, with its dark secrets and haunting past, was left to Amanda, the sole surviving member of the family. Months later, Dr. Robert Blake decided to pay a visit to the Rothwell home, driven by a sense of duty to check on his former patient. Upon entering the house, he noticed a peculiar red glow emanating from one of the back rooms. Curiosity piqued, he asked Amanda about it. "Oh, that's just my reptile incubator. I have some eggs in there. I can't wait for them to hatch and for you to meet them," Amanda replied with an enigmatic smile. The implication of her words hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the Rothwell legacy. The mystery of the house and of Amanda herself seemed to deepen, leaving Dr. Blake with a sense of unease as he contemplated the true nature of the events at the Rothwell home and the enigmatic woman who now resided within its walls. In today's story, a young man seeks wealth through his own entitlement, but soon finds out there's no perfect way to quick riches. Don't lose your head in today's tale. The streets of London were cloaked in a thick fog that seemed to clutch at the air, obscure in the quaint houses and cobblestone streets. In the heart of the eerie setting stood a small, debilitated house that belonged to an old woman named Agatha. Agatha, a mysterious figure in the neighbourhood, was known for her peculiar ways and her constant companion, a black cat named Salem. Jeremy, a man in his 30s, with a history of questionable choices and a string of failed endeavours, found himself desperate for money. His only living relative, Aunt Agatha, was rumoured to be wealthy, despite her never having worked a day in her life. Intrigued by the prospect of financial assistance, Jeremy decided to pay her a visit, hoping she would lend him a hand in his time of need. The front door creaked open reluctantly as Jeremy pushed it ajar. The air inside was thick with an unsettling stillness. He cautiously entered the dimly lit living room, where the only source of light emitted from a flickering candle on a dusty table. The room seemed frozen in time, adorned with antique furniture, draped in moth-eaten covers. There, seated in a high-backed chair, was Aunt Agatha, her silhouette barely discernible in the shadows. Salem, the black cat, lounged at her feet, its eyes gleaming with intensity. Agatha's voice, raspy and haunting, broke the silence. "So the prodigal nephew returns," she croaked, her eyes fixed on Jeremy. Jeremy, attempting to mask his desperation, forced a smile. "Aunt Agatha, it's been too long. I was hoping we could catch up." Agatha's laughter echoed through the room, sending shivers down Jeremy's spine. "Catch up, you say? With what? Your endless string of failed endeavours and playboy antics? I've been watching you, dear boy." Undeterred, Jeremy cut to the chase. "Aunt Agatha, I find myself in a really tight spot. Financially, you know. I was wondering if you could help me out." Agatha's eyes glinted with amusement. "Help you out? You, who never learned the value of hard work? You've always been a scrounger, just like your parents." Jeremy's temper flared. "My parents did their best. They're gone, and I'm here trying to make something of myself. I thought family was supposed to support each other." Agatha leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Your parents, bless their souls, probably departed this world to escape the burden of supporting your entitled existence." The tension in the room escalated, and the argument intensified. In the midst of the heated exchange, Salem rose from its place, its eyes locking onto Jeremy with an unsettling intensity. As the shadows in the room seemed to converge, Aunt Agatha's laughter transformed into an eerie chant. "You seek help, but the price is steep. A sacrifice to be paid for a pact made." The next day, the amber glow of the streetlights flickered through the thick London fog. Jeremy anxiously loitered outside his aunt's house, awaiting the familiar sound of the ambulance. Tuesday, the day of Aunt Agatha's health check, had become a beacon of opportunity for Jeremy, a chance to delve into the mysteries hidden within her peculiar abode. The ambulance arrived on time, and Jeremy's heart quickened. He watched as Aunt Agatha, frail and shrouded in a worn coat, was escorted into the vehicle. As it pulled away, he seized the moment and stealthily entered the house, his eyes scanning the rooms for any sign of hidden wealth. With each step, the ancient floorboards groaned beneath his weight, adding to the tension that gripped the air. The room, filled with an unsettling stillness, revealed little about the secrets they harbored. Drawers were opened and rifled through, the bed lifted in a futile search for hidden compartments, yet Jeremy found nothing that hinted at the source of his aunt's mysterious wealth. "I know she has a stash somewhere," he muttered under his breath. "She always has money, and she's never worked a day in her life." Frustration gnawed at Jeremy as the minutes ticked away. He pressed on, determined to uncover the enigma that surrounded Aunt Agatha. The back garden beckoned, its darkness concealing secrets of its own. As Jeremy stepped outside, he noticed Salem, the black cat, perched atop a peculiar mound of earth. "Stupid cat," he sneered. "That's probably where she buried her husband." Undeterred by the ominous atmosphere, Jeremy approached the mound, casting a weary glance at Salem. The cat's eyes glowed, an ethereal light dancing within them. Jeremy's hand dug into the soil, uncovering not hidden treasure, but something far more macabre, a collection of bones arranged in a grotesque pattern. A shiver ran down Jeremy's spine, and the reality of the situation dawned upon him. Time was slipping away, and he knew he had to retreat before Aunt Agatha's return. His nerves, a volatile mix of fear and desperation, urged him to leave the garden, just as the distant hum of the ambulance echoed through the foggy night. Jeremy slipped away, leaving the secrets of Aunt Agatha's house untouched, for now. Now we're going to have a short scare break while you ease your nerves. So while you're waiting, don't forget, if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and stab that subscribe button right now. As doing so, you'll really help the Professor spread his shadow of evil. Now, let's get back to the story. The fog that had shrouded Aunt Agatha's house during Jeremy's previous visit seemed to have settled within his mind, clouding his judgment as he returned the next day, driven by desperation and determination to secure the elusive wealth he believed his aunt possessed. "Auntie, I need this money. I can get it back to you within a week. But if I don't get it, I'm done for," Jeremy pleaded, his eyes searching for a glimmer of sympathy in Agatha's cold gaze. Agatha, however, remained unmoved, her laughter echoing through the dimly lit room. "Your problem, my boy, not mine." Frustration bubbling within him, Jeremy persisted, accusing her of harboring hidden wealth. The atmosphere grew tense, and Agatha's laughter morphed into an ancient cackle. "When you visited yesterday, did you find anything?" Jeremy, his patience waning, erupted into a frenzy, tearing through the house in a desperate search for answers. His exploration led him to Agatha's personal space, where he stumbled upon a will. As his eyes scanned the document, the revelation struck him like a lightning bolt. Everything would be bequeathed to the mysterious society, ensuring the care of Salem, the enigmatic cat. "You're crazy! This house is worth over £1 million, all for a cat?" Jeremy exclaimed, incredulous at the unexpected turn of events. Agatha, ascending the stairs, demanded the will back. Panic seized Jeremy as he clutched the document, realizing the magnitude of the inheritance he stood to lose. In a moment of reckless fury, he pushed Agatha. The frail woman tumbled down the stairs, her head striking the steps with a sickening thud. She lay lifeless at the bottom. The weight of what he had done pressed heavily on Jeremy's conscience, but the allure of sudden wealth drowned out the echoes of guilt. He fled the scene, taking the will with him. Days later, the phone rang, delivering news that would alter Jeremy's fate. "Your aunt has died, and you're the only living relative. With no will to be found, you stand to inherit her home. The irony of the situation hung in the air as Jeremy grappled with the unforeseen consequence of his actions. Little did he realize that the shadows within Aunt Agatha's house held secrets far darker than he could ever have imagined. In the wake of Aunt Agatha's demise, Jeremy reveled in the newfound sense of power and ownership. Within the ancient walls of her home, the allure of an easy fortune from selling the property consumed his thoughts, but a nagging suspicion whispered that the old woman had hidden wealth yet to be discovered. Determined to leave no stone unturned, Jeremy spent the entire day tearing through every nook and cranny. Frustration mounted as his exhaustive search yielded nothing. However, as dusk settled and the shadows deepened, he noticed Salem, the mysterious black cat, perched on the familiar mound of earth outside. An inexplicable connection seemed to form as Jeremy approached the cat. In the silence between them, a message echoed in his mind, not conveyed in words, but in a profound sense of instinct. Put your hand in the mound. Obliging the silent command, Jeremy's fingers brushed against something. Paper, and lots of it. He pulled out a wad of money, his heart pounding with triumph. "Yes!" he exclaimed, realizing that the amount in his hands was precisely what he needed to settle a debt with a menacing loan shark. In a frenzied rush, Jeremy left the house, eager to appease the looming threat of the loan shark. The transaction completed, relief washed over him. However, the elation was short-lived as he returned to the house, realizing the loan shark demanded double the amount in interest. Panic set in as Jeremy, desperate for more money, thrust his hand back into the mound. To his horror, there was nothing. "Where is it?" he cried, frustration boiling over. The cat, perched atop the mound, fixed its eyes on Jeremy, a thought, unspoken, yet unmistakably present. To have more, a sacrifice must be made and buried in the mound. Jeremy recoiled, shock etched across his face. The cat's enigmatic gaze held a weight of ancient knowledge, and a sinister realization crept over Jeremy. The shadows that lurked within Aunt Agatha's house were not just a repository of secrets, they demanded a price for the wealth they bestowed. Jeremy's resolve wavered at the ominous suggestion from Salem the cat, and he couldn't fathom making a sacrifice for additional wealth. Determined to avoid such dark dealings, he decided to rid himself of Salem by taking the cat to the vet. As he reached out to grab Salem, an excruciating pain coursed through Jeremy's body, causing him to convulse and lose consciousness. The world blurred into darkness, and Jeremy found himself trapped in a realm of agony. Eventually, he awoke to a persistent knocking on the door. Disorientated and still recovering from the pain, he stumbled to open it. To his horror, one of the loan shark's heels was menacingly standing there. "So this is your new place. Very nice," the thug remarked, eyeing the surroundings with a sinister grin. "We could use a place like this." Desperation clawed at Jeremy, and he hastily declared, "I've got your money, follow me." As they walked towards the mysterious mound outside, Jeremy's mind raced. In a bold move, he pointed to the ground. "It's in there. I buried it. You'll find 50,000 there." The thug, showing little hesitation, thrust his hand into the mound. Seizing the opportunity, Jeremy gripped a shovel and swung it with all his might. The thug crumpled onto the mound, but to Jeremy's horror, the earth seemed to consume the man in a matter of seconds. A profound silence settled over the scene, broken only by the unsettling sound of the soil. As the realization of what just happened sank in, Jeremy hesitated. Then, a sinister thought took hold. If a sacrifice was the price for wealth, he now possessed the key. With trepidation, Jeremy thrust his hand into the mound, unsure of what dark forces he was awakening. To his astonishment, his fingers brushed against cool, crisp paper as he pulled out a wad of money. The mound seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. The unholy bargain, struck with the shadows of Aunt Agatha's house, had taken a terrifying turn, and Jeremy found himself entangled in a web of supernatural forces that demanded more than he could ever have imagined. Jeremy, intoxicated by the newfound wealth, stared at Salem with a greedy glint in his eyes. "I want more, lots more," he declared, his desires spiraling into a dangerous obsession. That night, Jeremy indulged in a lavish lifestyle, reveling in the excesses that his ill-gotten wealth afforded him. Clad in new clothes, he frequented bars, showering strangers with drinks and flaunting his newfound affluence. As the night unfolded, he invited a woman to his home, the allure of his wealth promising an evening of luxury. Entering the house, Salem greeted them casually, a deceptive calmness in the air. "Oh, don't mind him, he's just getting hungry," Jeremy explained with a grin. The couple ventured into the garden for a moonlit drink, the mound of earth casting a haunting silhouette in the dim light. Seizing the opportunity, Jeremy pushed the unsuspecting woman onto the mound, expecting a repeat of the previous night's macabre reward. Yet, nothing happened. Puzzled, she quipped, "Oh, the kinky type, huh?" Undeterred, Jeremy called out to Salem, "Come on, Salem, here's your lunch." To his dismay, the cat remained indifferent. Then the pain returned, an excruciating reminder of the pact forged in the shadows. Writhing on the ground, Jeremy's head, the echoing thought in his mind, "You must make the sacrifice." Panicking, Jeremy shouted out, "Okay, okay." The woman, sensing the bizarre turn of events, began to leave. In a fit of desperation, Jeremy seized her and started to strangle her on the mound. Suddenly, strong hands pulled Jeremy away. Two men, drawn to his wealth and hoping for an easy theft, had followed him to his home. "You crazy man?" one of the men said. The woman escaped, but the men, uncaring about the situation, revealed their true intentions with a knife. "Salem, if I'm dead, who'll feed you?" Jeremy pleaded. Salem looked up, stopped grooming himself. As he jumped off the mound, he casually strolled between the two men. The two men looked at the cat and laughed. Suddenly, a chilling transformation. A reddish mist seemed to engulf Salem, as his feline form transformed into a tall skeletal figure draped in a tattered red cloak. The men, shocked and horrified, were thrown into the mound and consumed instantly. The skeletal figure turned towards Jeremy, a semblance of a smile on its skull-like visage, before reverting to the small cat. The truth behind Aunt Agatha's house unfolded in horrifying ways as Jeremy realized the malevolent forces that he unleashed were beyond his control. Jeremy, overwhelmed by the horrors that unfolded, found himself compelled to seek payment from the mysterious forces that dwelled within the ominous mound. Hopeful, yet apprehensive, he plunged his hand into the earth after the two men had been consumed, yearning for a reward, but once again the void offered nothing. Then searing pain returned, relentless and excruciating. Writhing on the ground, Jeremy pleaded for mercy. Desperation etched on his face. A sinister thought invaded his mind. "Place your arm in the mound as payment for my service." "You want my arm?" said Jeremy. Terrified, but concerned, he resisted the idea. The pain persisted. "Okay," he relented, attempting to escape, but the agony intensified. Lying on the ground, fading in and out of consciousness, Jeremy was presented with an ultimatum by Salem, the feline harbinger of darkness. "Sacrifice your arm, or eternal pain." Weak and defeated, he reluctantly agreed, whispering, "Okay, stop, I'll do it." As he stumbled towards the mound, a forgotten element lay in the dark. The girl's handbag. Unseen by Jeremy, it caught his foot, causing him to trip and fall head first into the mound. The world went dark, and his body went limp, a decapitated figure collapsing to the ground. Salem, perched on the mound, began to groom itself, emitting a contented purr. In the eerie silence, the police arrived shortly after responding to the girl's claims of abuse from Jeremy. They discovered his headless body, a wheel protruding from his jacket. The mysteries that lurked within Aunt Agatha's house had claimed another victim, and Jeremy's fate served as a chilling reminder of the unforgiving forces that exacted a toll for the pursuit of unbridled desires. As the final chapter closed, the shadows within the house retained their secrets, and Salem, the enigmatic cat, continued its vigil over the mound, a silent witness to the horrors that unfolded, the pursuit of wealth, and the price paid in the shadows of the supernatural. And if you're still looking to fulfill your thirst for more horror, don't forget to check out this next video, unless of course you're frozen with fear already.